Here, I gave this presentation at the Sons of Lake Erie last year, and Craig and,
Come on into the pit.
well, I don't want to block the.
Nope, you're good.
Okay. If I'm in the way, I'll try to move around, just not to block it for everybody. Anyway, I've had about 20 trips of a lifetime out in Wyoming and other places, and I budget $1,000 and I bring home change. So it's not something that you dream about or is out of reach. Now, this is assuming that you have some basic camping equipment, a tent, sleeping bag, a tarp to make a lean-to, anything. I have seen guys out there that just sleep in a bed of their pickup truck. You know, they have a cap and all that. So I have a tent, which you'll see some of my accommodations. So that is a shot of the North Platte River in Wyoming. It starts in Colorado, comes pretty famous river historically, which if you are into history at all or the Old West, that alone is worth going out there. Fishing is like icing on a cake, at least for me. I like them both equally. Okay, next slide. Here's how I plan my trips. I use the old-fashioned way, books and maps, because the places I end up in do not have internet service for one good reason. And then I just prefer books, you can study them more. So these are all easily found either on Amazon, just surfing around looking for books on different states. When I was in Lancaster, the show a couple weeks ago, when you walk in, they have a big bookstore and they have books on every state and country and everything. So the Atlas and Gazettes are very valuable out there. And then when you get out there locally, they have specific publications on specific rivers. And I have used the same principles and setup that I'm going to go into detail on mostly my Wyoming trips. But if you're not into cross-country travel, I have done this for the Adirondacks, just north of Lake Placid. Did the same camping, fishing, gathering of information. I also did this in northern New Hampshire on the Connecticut River, right up by the Canadian border. I wanted to catch some of the big brook trout in September when they're spawning colors, and landlocked salmon and a pickerel on the fly rod, which I got to scratch off my bucket list. Also, and if there's any questions along the way, just fire up a hand. As I go through this, I'll probably answer a lot of the questions you may have, and then whatever questions you might have at the end. Next slide. So here I am getting ready to hop in my van. I like vans. I find them spacious and adequate. And where'd my next slide go? So I'm just getting ready to leave home. I'll show you how the interior, how I have it set up. Next slide. So I've got a cot with my Army sleeping bag, pillows, grill. I have a Yeti cooler in there. I think, yeah, backpack for when I take long day trips when I get out there. And this was really nice. When I was working, which was about the first 10 trips I took out there, I was self-employed, but I was working. So I would drive from Erie and I would make it to like Ogallala, Nebraska, or the Cabela's in western Nebraska. It's like an 18, 19-hour haul. And I would sleep for 2 or 3 hours. I'd just pull over in a rest area, jump on the cot, sleep for 2 or 3 hours, finish the trip. But when you get there, when you do that, which I did out of necessity, you're kind of really beat for a day or two till you get your equilibrium back up. And when I retired, the first year I was doing this, why am I doing this? So now I go like from here to Davenport, Iowa, right across the Mississippi, pull into a rest area. You know, if you like luxury, you could go to a Motel 6 or something. But I just pull in a rest area, sleep a little bit, and I finished. Then the next day, I went from Davenport, Iowa, to just short of Laramie, Wyoming, and then from there I'm basically there, getting off 80 shortly. Next slide. So there I crossed the line into Wyoming, which is I love Wyoming, my second favorite state because I still love Pennsylvania. Next slide. This is an example of some of the views. A few of my slides here are just landscapes, and you're someplace different when you're out there. Next. Again, this is the road or the trail that goes back. When I leave for the Blacktop in Riverside, Wyoming, and pick up this dirt road, it's a dead-end dirt road. It's about 20 miles long, and I'm going like 5 to 10 miles an hour because I don't have the high heavy-duty suspension. I'm in my van. So it takes about an hour, 15, hour 20, and it dead ends on the river, and there's a BLM, Bureau of Land Management, campground with about 14 or 15 units. Next slide. The first couple of trips, I just had this little 2-man Eureka tent, which was adequate. You'll see I stepped up, next slide, do I have my, okay. That's just another view of the campground. They have picnic tables, they have a fire ring, they have potable water at this campground. Most of the campgrounds out there do. Next. And then I stepped up to my Cabela 6-man Alaska tent where you can stand up, put in my cot, put in a couple chairs, a little folding table, all my gear, and it's much more enjoyable and comfortable in there. Okay, next slide. There's another view of the tent setup. When they say it's a 6-man tent, I think it's because it takes 6 guys to set it up. But I do it by myself, and I feel like Curly, Larry, and Mo get one end in, and I have to run over to the other, and that pops out. But it's doable. And I have had some trips where people see me running around trying to get this thing set up, and they come over and help. Campers are very helpful to everybody. Next. Okay, that's the inside when it's set up. I get the cot. Again, very comfortable. I sleep great when I'm out there. When the weather comes, I go in there. I take books with me to read, to pass the time, and a deck of cards to play solitaire. Now in Wyoming, you don't get a lot of rain, but when you do, you know it. I mean, it really blows. And in fact, last year was the first time I had a leak during a rainstorm. Not a huge leak, but I was fortunate. I had 2 options. I could have got the seam sealer and gone over all the seams, which is a terrible job. And I was fortunate. I got on Cabela's and they actually sold the rain flies, because that's where the problem was. And so I picked up a rain fly. I forget how much. It was better than buying a whole new tent. And so now I'm good for the rest of my life, I think. Next slide. Okay, here's all my stuff. A cooler. I got a Yeti cooler because they really are the best. I've taken other coolers. They will last 7 to 10 days. Because the first few trips I was eating MREs and Mountain House and trail mix, and I'm watching a few of the other guys that are there eating steaks and chicken and hamburgers, and it's like, oh wow, real food. It is kind of a pain in the neck because of the logistics of getting the ice and taking a grill to cook it with. So this year it's a lot simpler if you just take the freeze-dried and MREs. It's not like you're going to be out there for 6 months or anything. So I use the Tupperware containers for all my stuff, the grill, and we have, I don't even know if that's going to show on the screen. Yeah, it doesn't show on the screen. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's my kit. I actually took a break from fishing, little day pack. If you've ever spent any time out west, you know why the cowboys wore cowboy hats, because the sun can be brutal out there. And so a little, I've had different sling packs, button packs, backpacks on every trip out there. Any of the fly gear you use here will work out there. I've used everything. I remember one year I ordered, in fact I waited a day because it didn't come. I ordered a 6-foot 3-weight, and the delivery man brought it and I grabbed it, and believe it or not, I fished almost the whole trip with a 6-foot 3-weight and had a ball with it. So I've used that, everything up to 10-foot 6 weights when I'm throwing the big articulated flies for big fish. Next slide. There's a sample of, it's funny, like most fishing trips, you take 10 or 20,000 flies and you're using 5 or 6 the whole trip. And that's about what I do. But I take everything because you never know. And then, believe it or not, it can actually get monotonous catching fish. So you want to see what else you can catch them on. And classic example for me is I caught, was it last year? I caught my first Pennsylvania trout on a dry fly last year because I just don't fish dries. Well, a lot of the guys out there fish dries, and I had them with me, and so now I'm about 50% out there dry flies because it is a riot. And but the basic flies that work here, parachute Adams. You could take BWOs, but all you need are Adams, different sizes, and then I'll save one streamer story for a little bit later, but woolly buggers, prince nymphs, same basic stuff you use here. Next. Yeah, there's just more flies. So I've got everything from the big articulated flies, streamers, a mix of store-bought and homemade. You can see the prince nymphs in there. And again, I always take more than I need. Next. There's a shot, obviously, me on the river. I'll never forget my first trip out there. I was fishing in the river, minding my own business, kind of looking downstream fishing, and I hear this big splashes and footsteps behind me, and I thought somebody must be riding a horse. I turn around, look up, there was a moose right in the middle of the river. So I've never seen bighorn sheep, but every other, I've seen elk and mule deer and antelope. So that's always a nice surprise when you're out there. Next. This was one of my late trips, later in September, early October, when the aspens are turning yellow, and it's just gorgeous out there. It's kind of a different, Pennsylvania, you get the Fruit Loops effect, and out there everything just turns that yellow gold color. It's really beautiful. Next. This is one of my favorite spots, spot burning, this big rock face and a nice pool there. Until last year, this is where I caught my biggest brown, and because I'm usually fit, there's other guys there, and I've got to know them, and we communicate throughout the year. It's almost like a small informal fishing club, because the same guys go out there every year. Oh, one other thing, I always, from my very first trip, I go after Labor Day, because the crowds are down both on the highway and at the destination. And on this one morning, I had broken camp, loaded up my van, and the fishing was just really good. I said, I got to go one more time. I went to this rock face, and I caught a brown trout. I had no way of measuring him, but he went from the tip of my finger up to the seam on my shirt on a streamer. Last year, I matched that on a small dry fly, big, beautiful brown. And sometimes I try to take pictures, holding on to things, and I want to get them back in the water. And so every once in a while, somebody snaps pictures of me if I'm with somebody. Because I always, except for one trip, I do solo trips. They're nice because you don't have to, well, you want to eat here, you want to eat there, you got to go to rest day, you want to leave a day early, you want to stay longer, whatever. So I just argue with myself. Next slide.
Who wins?
Me. This is a different stretch. This is a 6 mile gap. The terrain is a little bit different. Again, there's all kinds of places. You wouldn't think it. There's all kinds of public fishing out there if you do a little research, a little homework. One little tip I found, I was going to say this earlier, you can buy your license online and take all your stuff with you, but I like to stop at fly shops because they're cool. You find out if there's local favorites. But if you buy your license there, you buy a hat from them, buy a dozen flies, maybe a new fly box, they will spill their guts. They will tell you everything you need to know, where, not only what to use, where to go. So there's a little ulterior motive to that. This is another spot on the North Platte from, I don't consider that my main place, but there's really good fishing. It's right next to the Route Wilderness area, and they have all kinds of warning signs up for bears, and now wolves have been introduced. So, yeah, it's nice if you have a little piece on your hip. Next slide. Okay, here's some fish pictures coming up in a row, I think. The color of the fish is just beautiful out there compared to our stockies. And mostly rainbows and browns, a few we've argued about out there. I think cut bows, I think there'll be some pictures. Next slide. Yeah, you can see the olive crystal woolly bugger in his mouth. Nice chunky thick rainbows. Go ahead, next one. Just more fish pictures, obviously on a grassy bank. Next. There's a nice fat rainbow with, I think that's one of my homemade creations, an olive marabou streamer. Next. Brown trout.
Is this all out of North Platte?
Yes. Yeah, I fished other streams, and I think I will get into that with some slides, but I fished the Bighorn, I fished the Green River, and other places, but okay, next. Just nice, beautiful brown trout.
Are they wild or stock?
Oh, all wild.
All wild.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. The only stalking I know that they do out there is in the alpine lakes. They run the helicopters over and they just dump fish in there. And I think like close to town, the rivers that run through town, they may stock them. But yeah, they're just nice chunky browns. Next one. Yeah, more brown trout. And it's not the same every year. Although the river has, all the spots I fish, it doesn't change a lot over the winter. But the fishing, the quantity and the quality is not the same every year. But last year was probably among the best, if not the best, for both quantity and quality of fish. Pardon me?
Cutthroats in that?
That was one of the discussions we have when we're out there. Is I think I might have some pictures of what I thought were cut bows because they had the red on the gills, but they weren't pure. They're cut bows. But last year, and I just popped in my brain, I caught a brook trout last year in the main river.
Oh, really?
And the guy said like every 5 years somebody will catch a brook trout. They're not supposed to where they come some feeder stream, and it wasn't a huge brook trout, but I caught it and it was like.
I know some streams out there, they want you to kill them.
Yeah, they do. I fished Colorado one year and it was like, I think a limit of 15 and they encourage you to take them and eat them, which I do eat some of these fish, not the big ones. You'll see that coming up next one. One trip I took with my son, and he's been in college or working and he's got 3 boys, so he doesn't get away a lot. And one year he carved out time. He caught this brown trout with probably about 22, 23 inches and just thick and round. Next. I don't know if that's the same fish or not. But again, we do try to be careful with getting them off the hook, get a picture if we can, let them go. Okay, next. Typical brown trout, I mean, just a lot of 16, 18-inch fish. Every year I'll get, and I go usually for like a week, and I'll usually like get 5 browns that are 20 or over. Same thing, there is some big rainbows there too. Next. Yeah, again, I think that's the same fish, and we're just trying to get different angles of it. That's one I caught because I could see my rod and reel there, a cheap little Okuma reel.
I sold you that.
Yeah, you probably did. Next one.
Is that the one that kept walking up on you?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, there's my the trip my son took with me, and yes, those are trout on a stringer because we're going to eat them. Next, and there's trout hanging on a branch at camp. We're going to eat them. Next, and there they are on the grill.
Are you staying in campgrounds or is that right along the stream?
Right along the street. Yeah. Next one, and there we are eating. And now this
Did your
trip,
son do the cooking? Because I know you can't do it.
I did not cook these, and I think Rich, where'd Rich Corsi go? Because I know he's a gourmet cook. Oh, he's gonna miss this. One year I went out there, it was when I was still working, because I had the van all loaded up. I was gonna leave on a certain day in mid-September, and the weather forecast out there was really bad. Like all week they had early snow. So I just left my van packed, and I told some of my clients, well, I'm still here for another week. So this was one trip. I didn't get out there till like the 28th, 29th of September, and I fished the first week of October. And I pull into, there's the last part of the trail is a switchback that goes down into the river bottom. And like I said, there's like 14 different campsites scattered along the river. And I'm coming down there, and I'm looking left and right, and whoa, nobody is here. And that was a little, and then I did see some guy up at the other end, but he was hunting, he was not fishing, and he was leaving that day. So I was like, wow, this is kind of spooky. I'm there by myself. And then like a day later, this guy comes in, he was a contractor, and he had a big Cabela's wall tent with a wood burning stove and big chainsaw to cut firewood, the whole bit. It turns out he was this gourmet cook, and he says, well, bring a couple fish in tonight. And he did stuffed them with onions and chives and lemon and bacon on it, and then used that wrap, those cords you could cook in, and that's what he cooked, which was phenomenal. Next slide. And that's what they look like when they're cooking, with the bacon sizzling and dripping into the fish. Next. And then that's what's left.
Good dinner.
Next one. And that's I always save some of my venison backstrap, so yes, I do cook. Next one. This is the Smith's hot dog omelet I was making, because I took hot dogs with me. I took eggs, And like I said, that's a bit much, the logistics of that's kind of a pain, but you just kind of throw stuff in the frying pan, cook it up. Next. I took a float trip several years ago on the Bighorn. I have done that a couple of my trips. It's really different now because in Wyoming they passed some regulation, an additional fee for so the float trips now are like $700-800. I was doing it when it was like $350 to $500.
The time of year,
September.
that's where we go.
Yeah.
Black Caddis,
What's that?
Black Caddis.
Oh, streamers.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, no, you didn't hit that big hatch of Black Caddis?
No, mostly the big hatches out there are the BWOs and I forget the name of these guys. These guys that go out there, they're all dry fly fishermen,
Right.
most of them.
PMD.
Yeah,
PMDs.
yeah. Okay, but that was on the Bighorn River out of Thermopolis. Next. I think that was one of my bigger rainbows on that trip. Next. Yeah, you see wildlife. That's a not bad mule deer. Next. If I'm in your way, just smack me. Okay. Antelope are everywhere out there. Next. That's a decent bull elk there. I was driving into camp when I was just arriving, and he goes trotting across the road, and I'm fishing for my camera. And by the time I got a picture, he was way far away, but it was like a 4x4. But it's nice to see him. Next. And the porcupines. Next one. And these guys, one year, I didn't do it anymore because these chipmunks and mice, if you do stuff like this, they're gonna move in. In fact, last year, when I was going into my, a few years ago, the mice they get into the van at night, they find a way in, and they were getting in my stuff and tearing up Kleenexes and all this stuff. And so last year, the one guy that was aware of this had mouse traps, and he lent me a couple, and I think if I set 6 mouse traps in my little van, because I'm sleeping in the tent, and every morning they're all filled with mice. Pain in the neck. One guy had whether it was a mouse or a chipmunk, chewed his ignition wires, and a guy had to take him to town to get the replacement. Next. And these aren't supposed to be there. It's a garter snake, and they're really weird because they are long and they're really skinny. The only rattlesnake I ever encountered was on a hunting trip in Wyoming, and I dispatched him. But I was just fishing, it was that close, all of a sudden this thing crawls up in a rock, I'm like, and then I realized it wasn't a rattlesnake, so he went on his way in peace. Not in pieces. Okay, next. This is some of the side trips. This is the same year my son and I took a trip. There's hiking trails. A couple years I took my mountain bike on a rack behind my van and really enjoyed just riding around places, but I didn't have a cover for it. It picks up so much road grime. You almost need to get them professionally cleaned, but it was fun the 2 years I took them. So we were just hiking around the mountains there. There's trails, and you can hike. There's alpine, if you get the maps that I showed them on my first slides, you can find trails to all these alpine lakes, and they have a lot of brook trout in those lakes.
Have you run into any grayling?
No, I have not. I think you have to.
There were some in the Yellowstone.
I think there's some in the Wind River range that they have some, but I know Montana they're a little more common. That's just another view when we're hiking up a mountain. And next slide. One of the tourists, this is kind of a pullover, and somebody took a picture of my son and I. But you get an idea of the landscape. I mean, like I said, you really know you're someplace different. It's just breathtaking. Next. This is part of the history. We stopped in Laramie, University of Wyoming, where Josh Allen played. And I pulled into an area to eat something we found on the internet. And we're right across from the stadium, and they have a statue monument for Chief Washakie. And they have a Washakie Highway and all kinds of things named after him. So being a nerd that likes to read about history books, when I got home, I got on Amazon, and there's several books about him. And I'm not going to bore you because I know we got to tie flies. The fascinating story about this Indian chief. He was the only Indian that ever got the full military, but he died in like 1904 or something. He was like 102 years old, and they gave him a full burial with military honors from the U.S. Army. Okay, next. That's more on Chief Washaki. If you want to know more about him, talk to me afterwards. Another thing I like to do when I'm out there is these small town diners. This one, Grandma Joe's, just how can you not stop at Grandma Joe's? It's in Sidney, Nebraska, right about just a few miles behind the Cabela's. And it's for all the times I stopped at Cabela's. Well, this isn't Sidney, so one day I just drove into Sidney and saw Grandma Joe's and went in there. And next slide, got coffee. And next slide, nice breakfast. So when you go out there, I mean, their breakfasts out there are like Thanksgiving feasts. They just pile it on. Okay, next one. The Bear Trap is one of my favorite other small town restaurants. This is where the last place I eat real food and the first place I eat real food when I come out. This is in Riverside, Wyoming. It's my last jumping off place. Next slide. And hippies have to use the side door. If you remember what hippies are, if you grew up in the 60s, side door. Okay, next. And they have stuff like that, which when you're eating MREs and cooking your own food for a week or two, that's...
Hey, can you back up?
Do they have a toilet there?
Is there a side door? They're gonna walk around looking for it,
I
it's
did use
not
the
there.
front door, yeah,
That's real hippie.
yeah. Next. Okay, this was, I did the same concept of traveling, in my van and setting up the camp and everything. The Connecticut River in northern New Hampshire, right up near the Canadian border. And this is what I was after, was the spawning brook trout in the fall colors. Next. That's the Connecticut River in New Hampshire also. Next. There's a landlocked salmon that I got to scratch off my bucket list. They're not like steelhead, I mean, they're not huge, but 12 to 15 inch fish. I'm sure there's bigger ones, but I caught a handful of those. Next one. And there's a pickerel. How did I catch a pickerel? I took my float tube with me, deflated, and the campground. The Connecticut River has, river and then dam with an impoundment, then spillway river. There's a whole series of these. So I was float tubing in one of the reservoirs with a white zonker, I believe is in his mouth. And I had like 3 or 4 others hit and just cut the line because they're, as you can see, very toothy. But I did manage to get one. Next. And this gentleman, a note of encouragement for all of us in our 70s and above, or 60s, 91 years old this year. He's from Reading, Pennsylvania. He goes out every year, takes him 4 days. He drives about 8 hours, 9 hours a day. Takes a 4-day trip. He goes out in the months of August and September. So he's out there for 2 full months. And he doesn't have a tent. He just sleeps in his back of his, he also has a van. And the first trip I ever took out there, I pulled into the campground because that's where the fly shop guy told me to go. And all the spots were full. And I saw this guy with Pennsylvania plates. And so I just went up and said, hey, I'm from Pennsylvania, whatever. Anyway, he let me double up with him at his campground the first night. And then people come and go. And I was able the next night to move in. So we communicate a couple times a week during the off season. And I've learned a lot from him. He can no longer cross the river, although last year somebody actually carried him across the river because the water was pretty low, went up to one of the crossings and took him up to a place he hadn't been to for years. He mostly stays ankle deep, 2 or 3 steps out in the river. Excellent caster, a pure dry fly fisherman, and so he's just fishing behind camp. He has maybe 50 yards of stream, and he catches his share of fish because their fish are behind camp all the way up or down. I think that's my last. Yeah, there he is in action fishing there. And next, if there is a next, that's it. That's it. Any questions?
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
I just, as an encouragement, if you've got any adventurous spirit, any wanderlust, like I said, if you're not into cross-country travel, do this up in the Adirondacks, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania. There's places, obviously, before here, I'd never been to Potter County. I mean, you can go down to Potter County. If you've got a pickup or a van, just sleep in the back and go fishing. So, thank you, Ben, for the technology help. Because we were this close to not being able to get any internet connection. Okay.
Right.